if you want to be a great leader, the thing you care about has to be people first, second, third, people.
So for our 19,000 associates, we want to get this message out to them, because that's where I want the empowerment to happen. I mean, having over 1,000 hospitals that are truly empowered to do what's right, to make a better world for themselves as a team, to make a better world for pets, to make sure that we're connecting differently with our clients, because that human animal bond is so strong. I mean, the love that we have for pets, but that unconditional love that pets give us as well is just so powerful. So
yeah, it's awesome.
Oh gosh, and there's one of my pets right there. So he
Joining the
loves
call.
He loves it. He's trained very well. He's got me
right
trained.
on time.
I turn on the video and he always runs right in front of it. So there he goes. Now he's off to somewhere else. But
that's awesome.
So this book, your book, is truly is amazing, and it just resonated very, very deeply with me.
Thank you so much.
If I could just ask a few questions, I think this is important because we have so many of our associates that are in hospitals right now, and that's where I started my career. It was not in the hospital, but on the front lines. I was at Walgreens, stocking shelves, sweeping floors, mopping bathrooms, changing signs in the freezing weather. My hands are freezing. I mean, it was just whatever they told me to do, I had to do it.
That's the stuff that matters.
Yes, absolutely. And having that experience early on, I learned about the power of people development mentorship. I learned about having my voice heard and what it felt like when my voice or my team's voice wasn't heard, and how management made decisions on behalf of, and how that impacted people's lives. You have an amazing story as well about all the different jobs you had. So how about if you could just talk a little bit about how important those roles were and how that really became inspiration and helped you become the leader you are today?
Yeah. So, I mean, for those of you who haven't heard me or don't know me, or haven't read the book, I've had a lot of jobs that I think most people in the world would call lousy jobs, and they weren't lousy at all. They were actually awesome. But I mean, I was I was an assembly person at a place that made pliers, where I had to take these burning hot rubber handles and put them on the pliers, and they'd cool off and shrink, and then the pliers were done. So I made pliers. I worked at Dairy Queen at 15, 16, 17 years old. I worked as a waiter. I worked as a janitor for years at a senior citizen center. I worked as a waiter, a busboy, mechanic at a car parts. A car parts salesman, but also a mechanic. So I've done lots and lots of jobs that no one would call great jobs, that are not prestigious jobs. But I'll tell you what, I learned so much from those jobs. And in fact, in my book, I call it my minimum wage MBA. I learned everything you'd really need to know about business.
Absolutely.
From those jobs. To be honest, the stuff that top executives know about finance or accounting or the law or that kind of stuff. I mean, that it's learnable. It's not the most important stuff. It's learnable. Right. And there's people who are experts in that and can help us. But what's the most important stuff is to understand people and understand that they matter, and understand that when you care for them and you see them and value them and understand them and give them your authentic love and a deep connection, they blossom. People's natural state, the natural state of a human being, just like a flower, is to grow, blossom, and to become something beautiful. That's the natural state for all of us. We are designed to become a beautiful, positive, lovely force in this world. If we aren't a beautiful, powerfully positive force in this world, it's because there's some dysfunction is present. We're not, we aren't physically well. We aren't mentally well. Or, as is very common, we're in a job where our boss or manager doesn't really care about us, doesn't really see us, doesn't really care if we're us or somebody else, doesn't know that we're an individual human being doing the work. And so, conversely, when you have a leader that you work with who sees you and really cares about you and wants what's best for you and wants to describe for you why this particular job is going to help them, have a better life and help them learn and help them blossom. And then when they can blossom in a direction which also helps the organization, now you've got something very, very, very powerful. And that's really at the essence of this concept of empowerment, And what I also learned from those jobs, Brian, just from a very young age, is that there were certain people who just made the people around them better, okay? And there were certain people who did good work but didn't make anyone better. In fact,
Right.
maybe overshadowed others, maybe tried to keep the power. That didn't work very well. And what I always notice is, wow, the people who really care about others and try to help others and teach others and bring them along and help them be at their best, those are very powerful people. You know, those are the people who can be the best leaders in the world, right? So that was why when I started at Chipotle, the first thing out of my mouth to a big team of area managers that I was thrust in front of, who didn't even know I was president, I didn't even know they were there. I said, you know, listen, what I want to do here at Chipotle is build a culture like I built at my law firm, where each of us is rewarded based on our effectiveness in making the people around us better. Not just on being a good doer, not just in, you know, in doing one little thing really well or being a skilled practitioner. That's important too, to do something well. Of course it is. We're setting an example. But it's more important to be someone who makes others better, who teaches others, who gives our power away. You got to give your power away. In fact, you have to work your whole life to give your power away. Who are the people in the world who gave their power away the most? I mean, you look at historical figures, you know, whether it's Jesus, Buddha, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Gandhi. I mean, the people who worked hard to give their power away, it worked out okay for them.
It worked out very okay, I would say. You know, I learned a lesson early on. One of the best pieces of advice that I had. I became a district manager, and I had this regional that he gave me some tough love, but I'll never forget it. He said, "Hey, I don't care what you know now." And we had this visit, and I was, you know, again, I was probably, here's everything I know. I know about this. And I
That's
was
great.
back in my pharmacy days. I was like, I know this. Here are my stores, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, hey, I don't care what you know. No one cares what you know any longer. It's about how you take care of your people. And he goes, so I don't care what you know. I only care about how you take care of your people. And I'm like, all right, got it.
That's awesome.
Delivered.
You know, and that's too rare, though. That's very unusual. That message you got was wonderful, but it's very unusual. I find that it is sort of, unfortunately, it's sort of all of us have a human nature to take care of ourselves first. And that's fine. I mean, even on airplanes, they say, put your oxygen mask on before you help your kid. It's fine. It's fine. You know, so it's fine to be selfish. It's fine to take care of yourself, but it's only fine to be selfish if you realize what real selfishness looks like.
Yes.
To be actually selfish is to take care of everyone else the best you can, and to create a great team around you, and to make sure they're at their best, to make sure that you give them the power. You know, that's what I would call sort of enlightened selfishness, because if you do that really well, guess what? You look like a superstar because your team's great. You feel great because your team's great. You feel inspired and fulfilled because your team is happy. So really giving away your power, teaching all you can teach, and then really learning to diagnose underlying problems. This is something we talked about, Brian, during the last hour that I think is critically important. And this is difficult. Okay, it's difficult because it means we have to break bad habits. But anytime we see anything wrong in our world, let's say at work, if we're a supervisor and we see that, I'll go back to Chipotle because that's my closest experience, but if you see the restaurant is dirty and the tables are dirty, or it's disorganized, or the food's not quite right, or the vegetables aren't cut correctly, or you name it, right? Those aren't problems. We all say, well, that's a problem. The food's bad. No, that's a symptom.
Right.
That's a symptom. It's just like right now, Brian, if all of a sudden you started bleeding from your forehead, I wouldn't be as much like, hey, Brian, like mop that blood up. I'd be like, why'd you just start bleeding? You know,
Right.
It's like, what's the underlying problem? I mean, you know, it's like all of a sudden you started bleeding. No, I didn't see anyone cut you. Why did you start to? Well, it's the same. If you have a restaurant that's really, really dirty, why is it dirty? You know, that's a symptom of something wrong in the culture. And that thing wrong is always, not sometimes, always one of three things. You have a lack of empowerment, and that's usually what it is, or you have a lack of top performers, or you have people who actually don't understand the high standards that you're trying to achieve. So it's almost never high standards because we've taught the high standards usually too many times, haven't we, Brian? Usually we keep teaching people something they already know, thinking that they're going to change their. No, so that's not it. And it's usually not top performers, although I'll say a word about that in a minute. It's almost always that they're not empowered. And empowerment means feeling confident in your ability and encouraged by your circumstances. Got to have both of those. We keep thinking about confident in your ability and training things too much. It's not usually that. It's usually encouraging circumstances. So what's encouraging circumstances? In a nutshell, it's making sure your people feel seen, cared for, valued, loved, understood, and that they're challenged, and that we want them to be at their best. And if they have that, just like a good parent or a good friend or a good spouse or a good brother or a good uncle or a good coach, when they make us feel empowered, we really sizzle. We're at our best. So,
absolutely.
You know, and high standards, I tell you what, everyone knows them. Like, everyone knows that generally speaking, it's better to have a clean hospital with great service, with, happy people that are
Yes,
polite and, organized. We know that organized is better than disorganized. We don't have to teach this stuff.
exactly.
But for a moment, top performers, because I kind of have glazed over that. In my lexicon, a top performer is someone who has the desire and ability to perform excellent work, and through their constant effort to do that, elevates themselves, elevates the people around them, and ultimately elevates, in your case, Banfield Pet Hospital or the organization or their church or what have you. So again, that's kind of a long definition, but really it's two things. Do great work, make others better. Do great work, make others better. Do great work, but not just do
Love
great
it.
work. Our country is all about do great work. Yeah, right. It's like, and we worship the people we worship the guy who gets on top of Everest. We worship the Michael Phelps for winning the Olympic gold. We worship the, Mario Andretti. Well, that's a long time ago when he was, or what's the guy who's the best Formula One driver in the world now?
Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton. We
Yeah,
worship Lewis Hamilton's the best. Well, guess what Lewis Hamilton has around him, right? A team,
exactly.
who are working. And yes, he's supremely talented. He's excellent. But the first, if you say, Lewis, it's all you, man, he's gonna say, it's not all me. I got a great team. Back at Petronas Mercedes of 1,000 people who's working to make this car great and help me be great. So, really, it's really about giving your power away, empowering others, and making sure that they understand that a top performer doesn't just mean doing great work, but doing great work and making others better.
It's making others better is so important, and it really is that. It's that missing ingredient. Well, that's not missing. How do I say missing ingredient? But it's almost like a missing ingredient where people they stop and they don't think enough about. And to your point in an earlier conversation, I mean, I can walk in a hospital and I can tell instantly the culture. I mean, it's just something you feel, and I'm so thankful when you have those leaders in those hospitals. In our case, hospitals that just understand that, and they want to give that knowledge. They're not trying to hoard that energy. They're trying to figure out how to make more of that. And I think, I've talked a lot about at Banfield of, what's the work that you do and what's the work that you should be leading. And too often I see leaders, the work that they should be leading is the work that they're doing, and that's what their team should be doing. And they're in theory, they're robbing people of development. They're robbing people of a career.
That's exactly right. I did that as a parent. And sometimes as a parent, I blew it because I'd come home and I'd be like, the kitchen was dirty. I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to clean the kitchen. I'll just do it. I'm fast. I'll get it done. But by doing that too many times, then my kids were like, he knows, he's got that. I'm not that important. Well, it would have been a lot better for them, and God knows for me, if I got them interested. Like, hey, it's kind of fun. Get it clean. It feels good when it's all clean. Doesn't that feel good that you were the cause of that kitchen being clean? I wish I had done a better job of that.
Yeah, there's a lot that I wish I would do and do a better job as well. On those 3 points you talk about, the third one is people don't know what's expected. I'm sorry, the high standard. They don't know the high standard.
Right.
I somewhat laugh internally because like that would always drive me crazy, because when I see a leader go into a hospital and say, oh, there's client satisfaction scores not right, I'm going to fix it, or I'm going to talk to him. It's like they already know it's not right. The reason it's not done is they're not making a choice to not do it. It's how are you helping develop people? So any advice on like what you saw, either best leaders or what you expected, and how people would create that empowering culture to really teach, train, and have people learn those types of skills?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of when you go into, let's say one of your hospitals, all eyes are on you. Okay. So when I went into a Chipotle restaurant, eyes are on me, right? Because I was this, CEO guy. And so people were looking at me, and they were looking at what I looked at. Okay.
Yeah.
What you look at, I mean, Brian, in your case, you're the CEO of this 17,000 member organization, I think. I mean, when you walk somewhere, you're the CEO, and people are going to watch what you care about. Okay. So if the first thing you do every time when you go into a veterinary hospital is you look at, let's say you go just make sure all the scales are working. Like, let's say you're a real tech junkie, and you're like, I want to make sure the scales are exact to the ounce. It's important, and you go focus on the scales all the time. I mean, people are going to be like, hey, the guy cares about scales.
Right.
If you go in there and you look only at, how clean it is, people are going to, oh, he cares about cleanliness. So this is what managers almost always do. They have a bias. They care about cleanliness, or they care about the food, or they care about the scales or the equipment, and they have a thing they care about. I'll tell you, if you want to be a great leader, the thing you care about has to be people first, second, third. People. When you walk in there, you've got to see, hey, how do the people look? And I don't just
Yes.
mean, I don't mean are they dressed properly and look presentable? Yes, that's important. But what I mean is, do they look lit up? Are they enthusiastic? Are they excited? Are they wanting to do great work?
Right.
Do they have a vision that for themselves and for the company that's the same? Like, hey, I want to build a great team of empowered people who feel great, who love each other, who care about each other, who make each other better. And by doing that, we'll take care of pets. We'll make the world a better place for pets
I
by doing
love
that.
it.
I mean, if you do that, you go into a restaurant or you go into a hospital or wherever you work, people are going to go, where's that boss's eyes and energy and attention going? And I'll tell you what, right now, it better be to people. It better be to the culture. You better
I
care
love it.
first and foremost about the culture, because if you don't, everyone's looking at you, and they know that even if you talk culture, oh, culture's important, while you're tinkering with the scale the whole time, they're like, people are smart. People are very,
Yeah.
very smart. Everyone is smart. Everyone's got a zillion neurons that are focused on what does he really care about? What he really cares about is equipment. Got to care about people first. If you don't,
That's
you're already
awesome.
blowing it.
That is awesome advice, and that philosophy ought to. I mean, it exists no matter your role, because you have a team that you're responsible for. You have a team that whether you're a peer or you lead. That is absolutely just pure brilliance, and I absolutely love it. And I know a lot of people are gonna get some good takeaways from that, because yeah, you're right. I mean, no matter what you talk about, that becomes a priority. And even if you're trying not to coach by telling people what to do, often we end up telling people what to do based on where our eyes go, where we spend our time, how much we spend time doing that. And that's
And
why
it's quicker, right? It's quicker to go in. Brian, if you go into a hospital and you did a drop by because you happen to be flying through Atlanta, Georgia, and no one knows you're there, and you're like, I'm just going to go check out a few hospitals. And if you walk in and you don't have much time, and you see that, the front counter is disorganized, on your way out the door, you might go, hey, how you doing? You might bark, oh, and get that counter organized. Wait a minute. First of all, don't go in the hospital if you don't have time to connect for a minute. Just don't
sure.
even go. Like, just don't. If you can't go in there and have a moment to actually be vulnerable and see your people and care about them, and look, if it's a disaster and it's a situation you're not proud of, okay, it's a situation you're not proud of. You have to ask yourself, what's going on? What's going on? What's the underlying problem? And again, it can only be three things. They either don't know what to do, which it almost never is. They aren't top performers, which is seldom the case.
Right.
It's because they're not empowered. Why aren't they empowered? It can only be two reasons. They either are not confident in their ability, and it's almost never that, or they're not encouraged by their circumstances. It's almost always that.
Bingo.
Why aren't they encouraged by their circumstances? Because somehow, some way, their leader or their chief of staff or someone who's in a position of power is not empowering them. He doesn't see them. He doesn't sit down with them. He or she doesn't care about them enough. Isn't imparting, like, here's what the vision is. Here's what we're trying to achieve together. Will you help me achieve that vision? I need your help. And won't it be excellent? Because we're going to build a team of all top performers who are empowered, who care about each other, who love each other, and we're going to make sure that we all take care of. We're going to be like a family. But even more powerful, we're going to be a family by choice rather than by birth. We're going to be a family by choice. We're going to make each other better. We're going to feel inclusive. We're going to come here and feel more at home than we feel at home. That's how good it's going to be. Now, if you have a culture like that, guess what? You don't have to ask anyone to clean up the counter. Or if you do, you only have to say it once.
No, that's exactly right. It's exactly right. We talk a lot. I mean, culture's my top priority, has been, always will be. The strategic direction of the company is the second priority, because I believe strategy without empathy is a wasted idea.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
people want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And at Banfield, our purpose is to make a better world for pets, but my personal purpose is to make a better world for people.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about being seen, valued, loved, and understood. And I absolutely love that, because inclusion is a choice. You choose to be inclusive or not. And when you choose to be inclusive, I want belonging at work. So people who they are at home, they should be themselves at work. And we shouldn't create this dichotomy of, like, what does it mean to be at a Banfield? If you work in a Banfield hospital, this is what you have to do. And no, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I love your mantra on that, and it's just so powerful and so refreshing. And specifically today, people want to be seen, they want to be valued, they want to be loved, they want to be understood, more so now than ever. Can you talk a little bit more about the importance?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I went out and did this docuseries, Brian, called Connected: A Search for Unity. I think maybe some people have heard of that. And if you haven't, go to my website, loveisfree.com, and I talk about it. But the bottom line is, after I left Chipotle, you know, I went and got my pilot's license, and one of my friends said, you know what you should do? You love people and love sitting down with them. Why don't you take your new pilot's license and fly around the country and take a camera and just film interactions with people? And basically, that's as simple as that is. That's what became the basis for this docuseries. So in it, I travel around the country, and the first one was actually in Canada, so outside the country as well, just going to meet people from different walks of life. And I'll tell you, what I keep seeing over and over and over is that that's the one thing we all want, is to be seen, valued, loved, and understood. Now, we don't just want it. We do things to try to get that feeling, okay? It's just that, unfortunately, because of marketing or Western society, or the incorrect assumptions made by Western society, or the bad sort of the wrong goals of Western society, particularly, or developed countries' goals, you know, a lot of us are going about it the wrong way. Okay, we're going about it by trying to get, you know, by trying to get rich. We're going about it by trying to be physically beautiful, or going about it by trying to be in a job of great prestige, or to be impressive personally. You know, but the most powerful thing you could ever do is instead of focusing on all that stuff, which really doesn't matter, focus on being a source of goodness for others. You know, help others be at their best. You know, I mean, I'll tell you, in one of our episodes on Connected, there was this wonderful guy who calls himself Mr. Clean and Safe Parks. And Mr. Clean and Safe Parks' real name is Raphael, and he's now become a friend of mine. We keep in touch on text and stuff, and there's just this love between us. But it's like, this guy, I mean, goes around in a place in northern Philadelphia, which is nicknamed the Badlands for being a place of incredible opioid epidemic, lots of drugs, lots of deaths, lots of needles in parks. I mean, it's incredible. And he goes around these parks and picks up needles so kids don't step on them. You know, this is a guy who, there's no chance of getting wealthy picking up needles or keeping parks clean. That's not, but he doesn't care, because this guy's the wealthiest guy I've ever met. This guy's filled with beauty, filled with love, filled with compassion, filled with care for other people. And he is, I mean, he's living a life that anyone would love to live, because he cares so much. And these people, I mean, I walked around Philadelphia with him. You'd swear the whole city just loves him. And they don't just love him like, oh, shucks, there he is. They love him, and they need him. They rely on him. He brings them shoes when they need shoes. He's given away the coat off his own back to people who are cold. But this isn't something, this isn't something he's just doing to be a good guy. It's because it's what gives him great fulfillment.
Sure.
Okay. And that's what I tell you what. And while there's inspiring people like him doing things like that, really that's what will make us all feel a sense of fulfillment, is to be excellent and helpful to the people around us. And it works to the quote unquote highest levels of corporate management. I mean, if you have a CEO who does this, the company culture will follow and will be excellent. If you have a CEO who doesn't, it won't. If you have a CEO who does and doesn't, the difference between their results for the organization is going to be extraordinary. It's not subtle. This is something, and I'm talking about, yes, the organization that has an inspiring, empowering leader will be financially way more successful, but that won't be the most of it. They'll also have a culture that they're proud of, and they'll feel really good, and they'll go home and sleep well at night, and the people will feel good, and it will create a bleed out effect into the world of goodness and love. And so anyway, I probably sound a little too much like a prophet, but it's like, I just think this work. It's almost like this shit works, you know, and it's what's most fun.
Without question, it works, and I absolutely love it. And I'm a raving fan over all of it, because you know, again, Connected, check it out. And also this book, Love is Free, Guac is Extra, check it out. You one of the things you talked about in our last session, someone asked you the question of like, what ritual do you have around empowerment? You talked about, it's easy, people. Why do you think so many leaders get stuck in the age of standardization of the financials, the P&L, and they're so focused on just what's in front of them on a piece of paper or a spreadsheet, instead of that human capital, instead of making a better world for people? Why do you think that is? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, again, I think it's the values that our society puts forward, right? If you look at billboards driving on Los Angeles, and that was thinking of that because I was just there recently, and I lived there for quite a while. You go around Los Angeles and you show the good-looking guy with the Rolex, you know, or the guy with the McLaren in the background with the quote-unquote beautiful woman on his arm. There's this image that life is all about us, and I think social media has only made that worse. Even though it's a great tool, to help us, it tends to be a tool where people are like, hey, I've got 5 million likes and she only has 2 million likes or whatever. I mean, not likes, but connections.
Sure.
But you can see how
Yeah.
I'm inarticulate about social media. Yeah. I guess I just made it clear. But bottom line is we celebrate the wrong stuff. Okay. We celebrate, listen, we should celebrate Michael Phelps for winning the Olympics because that's cool. But we don't have a really clean idea as to how much support he got from everywhere else. Right. We celebrate the guy who wins the race, climbs the mountain. We celebrate we celebrate sort of the manifestation of the team's success. One of which the thing is money, right? We celebrate, Jeff Bezos is the richest guy in the world, or Elon Musk is the richest guy in the world. Let's take Elon Musk. Do you think Elon Musk's goal was to be the richest guy in the world? Well, no way. I know right. Elon's goal was to do something incredible, to do something fantastic, to do something that would change the world, that would help people. He wanted to, he wants to get to Mars, but he also wanted to harvest the power of the sun and make a great car that could run off the power of the sun through battery technology. He wanted to send rockets to Mars, and good Lord, I would have told him, there's no way you can make a rocket company. That's ridiculous. And he did it. Did he do it because he's trying to get rich? Well, I think that the dumbest thing you could ever do to try to get rich would be to try to create a rocket company. Okay. and Elon Musk is not a dumb guy. He's probably the smartest guy I've ever met. But he's not trying to get rich. Well, yes, he got rich, but he got rich because he's got all this passion and tried to do something really, really great for the world. This is true with almost everyone who ends up with a lot of dough. Yes, there are people who get luckier than others. And yes, there are inequities in the world. But generally, people who do really well financially do well because they give something to the world that the world likes, needs, and wants, whether it be a product, a service, or it could be even a psychological benefit, as some of these, like a guy like Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins is super rich. Was his goal to be rich? I think it was fun to become rich for him, but his goal was, he was a depressed guy who felt like a loser, and he found out a way out of that. And he thought, I can help other people feel better. I can help other people feel powerful. And if I can do it, anyone can, he thought. And guess what? He's done it. Thousands or tens of thousands, probably millions of people have benefited from something he said. And that has caused him to be wealthy. But if you ask Tony Robbins, what's the greatest thing about your life? There's no way he's going to say it's because I'm wealthy.
Right.
Bill Gates isn't going to say, the thing I'm happiest about, I'm so rich. And it just kind of warms me. No, but these things are this kind of outcome is a manifestation of doing something really, really with your heart and your soul and your passion. And the only way any of us are going to give something with heart, soul, and passion is when we really care and we're really empowered and we feel seen, valued, loved, and understood. Another thing I would just say real quick, Brian.
So powerful.
I tend to talk too much, but
it's all good. This is gold. Are you kidding me?
Thank you. But another thing I've learned from this docuseries is the value of struggle. We all in this society, we don't value struggle. We think we got to get away from struggle. We want to make sure that every kid on the soccer team gets a trophy, and everyone thinks that, and we don't want them to feel bad or go through a hardship or have to work too hard to get to the top of the mountain or have to work too hard to get through school. Nonsense. Struggle is really important. Struggle helps us it enriches us. It gives us a sense for our own value, our own ability to overcome an obstacle, our own ability to get through hard times. And that's another thing I saw with all these people I interviewed, whether it be the Blackfoot Nation, the Blood Tribe of the Blackfoot Nation in Alberta, Canada, whether it be the people in the Badlands in Philadelphia or McDowell County, West Virginia, or the border wall in Laredo, Texas, or the Maine lobster fishermen, or the people in Brunswick, Georgia, who were dealing with the aftermath of the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. All of these people were going through incredible struggle, but when they cared about each other and united with each other to get to a better place, they did it. And people are very, very powerful. All of us are powerful. Not you and me more than others. We're all powerful. It's a question of, have we harnessed that power? And the leader's job, make no mistake, the leader's job is to harness the power of other people, to harness it, not to drag the power out of them,
right?
To harness the willing and passionate participation of their heart, their love, and their passion towards a journey that we want to go on with them. So, but in our country, we have too much of this stuff, Brian. Back to the long answer to a short question. Back to their point is like, why do we care about money and numbers and money? I'll tell you what, fine. If what you care most about is money, do the same stuff I'm talking about. Make others better, care about them, empower them, cause them to feel seen, valued, loved, and understood. And even if you care about money, trust me, put that aside, put that on the back shelf, and focus on making people better. And guess what? More likely that you'll be successful.
Exactly.
In any way. Yeah.
Exactly. I had one time someone talked about how money was the biggest motivator in their life, and I said, well, if that's the case, then if you take care of people and you put people first, then you'll make the most money you'll ever make. But if you don't, you won't make the most money. So if that's your focus, either way, the outcome will still be there. But
That's
if you
right.
don't care about people, it's not going to work here because it's all about how we connect with people.
I
And
know a
I
lot of
just
people. Yeah, I know a lot of people whose first passion was money, and they didn't end up with health.
exactly.
So,
Exactly right. Exactly right. They chase something else, and it's not going to be fulfilling, and
right.
it's not sustainable. I'll say it that way.
No.
Well, I just remember. I mean, I remember being on those front lines and the struggle I had. I mean, goodness, I was scared. I remember when I dropped out of college. I was scared. I woke up to 2:30 in the morning. My head's buried in my hands. I'm crying because I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and I was so thankful that I had someone mentor me and talk to me about a career in pharmacy and management, et cetera. And then I eventually was a store manager. Went back to school full time while I worked full time because I wanted that independence for myself and I wanted that fulfillment. But that struggle was incredibly motivating, and
Yeah.
I'll never forget that struggle. And I think for me,
And you
it also
understand other people now. Now you can understand
yes.
other people who are struggling.
Massively, and I just look at we have 19,000 associates across the country, and I'm just like, how many of these people could be presidents, CEOs of businesses out there? How many of them can be regional vice presidents? How many of them
Yeah.
can be divisional vice presidents, etc.? And how do we harness that by when we have to really connect authentically with our people? And that's the greatest gift a leader can do is one is understand that I have the responsibility to take care and influence and listen to people and help people and navigate. It could be a Sherpa in people's lives. And as a result, I can think about the good that I can do in this world. And so I want more of our leaders to really harness that responsibility and understand that piece. And I think when you talked earlier, you talk about the power of vulnerability. That is like I shared earlier. Like I'm sad because I worked in a situation that if you were vulnerable, it was a weakness, and I was not my authentic self, and as a result, I feel just robbed of an experience that I could have been even that much better for people than I was. Whether I was great or not great doesn't matter. I could have been better if I wasn't. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of vulnerability and maybe just why that's so important? And I mean in the book too. It's I mean the stories are just inspiring and brilliant. So I
Thank
appreciate your
you.
vulnerability, but I'd love to hear directly from you on that one right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so, I think people have a tendency to think that there are people who have made it who are happy, and then there are people who haven't made it who aren't happy. And it's just not true. I mean,
Mhm.
every day I have struggles. Every day I have insecurities. Every day I sometimes I feel like a loser sometimes. I feel like, oh God, I didn't do my best on that all the time. I mean, I am my worst enemy. I beat myself up incessantly. It's no fun. So, so I think that when you have someone, and going back like to someone like Karina's story in the book, when you have a leader who
Yeah.
seems to have they've got all their shit together, they never have a hard day. They've got, Brian's got no problems. Brian's got great marriage, great kids, great life. It's all easy. If they think that's true about you, Brian, that they think you got it all and it's easy and there's no struggle, it's very hard for them to relate to you.
Right.
It's very hard for them to connect to you, and therefore it's hard for you to connect to them because connection is a two-way street. So, vulnerability is really important in order for us to be present and able to really communicate with someone. But it's also incredibly important because vulnerability is the space we create
Yes.
of loving acceptance, lack of judgment, a welcome place where somebody can feel safe to place themselves, right? So, and
That's great.
someone's going to feel a lot safer placing themselves in your care or in my care or in anyone's care if that person, first of all, shows that they're a real person, that they have hardship and struggle too, that they don't think that they're above anyone else, that they're better than anyone else. It's just this beautiful, loving sort of, I mean, it's almost like you've made this very loving, safe space. And when you demonstrate your own vulnerability and say, look, hey, life's hard for me too. Yeah, I've had a hard day. And sometimes it's even like you feel like when you go into one of your hospitals, Brian, you might feel like you got to be on, and you got to
Right.
show that you're smart today. Well, you do have to be on in the sense that you have to actually be present. Like
Right.
you're not distracted by a fight you just had with your friend, and
Sure.
you can't. You have to bring your presence. But once you bring your presence, and someone says, "How are you doing, Brian?" You might say, God, today I'm just off. I feel kind of dumb today, but I'm really glad to be here. I'm just glad to be here with you guys, and I don't feel very smart today. I think I made a bad decision on something this morning. I got to fix that, and and I said something dumb today earlier. I shouldn't have said to someone. I had to apologize. It's been a hard day, but how are you guys doing? I mean, if you just said what's really going on in your day, even if it wasn't all positive, in fact, especially if it wasn't all positive,
Yeah, sure.
people are going to relate to someone better who's a real person. And guess
Right.
what? Real people have problems. Real people hurt. Real people have pain. Real people have confusion and frustration and anxiety. And real people, feel like losers sometimes,
Hmm.
And if you got a person who never feels those feelings, I would tell you got a psychopath on your hands, or someone that isn't probably very valuable to hang out with, because there's
Right.
no, so vulnerability, folks, I mean, it's everything, right? It's like vulnerability is our willingness to actually be present and available for ourselves and for the people around us.
I
And
love it.
a lot of times if you're in a big city walking through, picture yourself like in New York City on a crowded day, walking through people in business suits. It's not a moment where you're feeling particularly vulnerable, right? You're probably not going to go, hello, 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 in a really, in a really deep way. Okay, fine. So we put up a little bit of armor. We walk by, we're careful, we're serious, we want to look tough so no one bumps into us, and we look like we're important and we're in a hurry. But when we stop, when we get in front of somebody, we've got to remind ourselves, okay, whoa, hey, let it go, let the armor go. This isn't the
Right.
street. This isn't the busy streets of New York City. I don't have to ignore everybody. Okay, I can just be. I can trust that. And also another thing about vulnerability is vulnerability has to do with trust. Because if you trust people to
Good
take
point.
care of you when you demonstrate weakness, okay, guess what? They will. They
Right.
will. But if you come at them trying to portray only strength, what are they going to look for? Your weakness.
Mm-hmm.
If
That's
you
powerful.
if you try to portray only strength, people are going to find your weakness. They'll find it anyway, so don't bother. They'll find it like that. And okay, but
True.
conversely, if you come bearing your weakness, your vulnerability, and vulnerability, by the way, is not weakness; it's strength. Okay, vulnerability is strength, but that's another story. But if you come bearing, your soul, and sort of like, hey, here I am with all my warts, with all my imperfections, with all my frustrations and hurt and pain, but also with my joy and brilliance and smart moments. Here I am, the whole picture. Well, then people will come towards you. And if you show them your weakness, they'll tell you your strengths.
Very true. That's powerful.
Let other people tell you your strengths. You don't need to. They'll figure that out and advertise your weaknesses. You might as well put them out there because they're going to find them anyway. And how much
That's
more
true.
credible are you when you tell them first?
That's very true.
I mean, with me, I talk too much. So sometimes I say, hey, guys, look, I'm in a meeting. If I end up talking the whole, just tell me to shut up. Like, I want to hear from you, but I get excited, And my excitement is a strength, but it's also a weakness. If
Sure.
I just mow people over, it's no good.
Right.
So I got to tell them, hey, I talk too much. Interrupt me if you have to,
I love it. Oh my gosh. There's so much good. Monty, thank you so much for your time. Thank
No,
you for
Brian,
the
it's an
words.
honor.
Everything is fantastic. This is going to go to all our hospitals. So I know our hospital leaders and our associates across the country are just going to absolutely love it. This has been huge. And again, there's so many takeaways. So for everyone out there, please check out the docuseries Connected. And then this book is absolutely fantastic. Love is free, guac is extra. There are so many takeaways. I resonated incredibly well with this. I mean, it was just an easy, like, I'm connected. I'm on Team Monty, man. Whatever you need from me, I'm all in.
Hey, that's
I'm here
great,
to make a
Brian.
better world for people. So making a better world for people. I'm so lucky and thankful that I have the opportunity to be at Banfield and to try to do everything we can to make our hospitals all connected, our teams even stronger, and where people can just truly do their best. They want to make a better world for pets. I want to make a better world for people so we can really bring their purpose to life. So thank you
Absolutely.
very much, Monty. I appreciate everything.
Well, thank you, and good luck to you and everyone in your organization and everyone who's listening. It's an honor to be able to talk to you all today, and thank you. And also, stay in touch, Brian, and anyone else who wants to stay in touch. You go to my website, loveisfree.com. If you write into the website, it'll get to me. I won't get back to you necessarily right away because I get some requests, but I will get back to you. So if you want to talk more or learn more or teach me something, please do.
Let's do it. Everyone, let's keep the conversation alive. So thank you very much. So Monty, thank you again. Awesome. Let's stay in touch for sure.
Okay, will do. Thank you,
All right.
Brian.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye.